Henderson. I'm Saunders, sir, from the fleet.
Mediterranean or Atlantic?
Sir, the office. B for Bligh's Construction Limited. I drove you once before, sir.
Well, if I could see the back of your neck, I might recognize you. Well, who are you driving today?
You, sir. To Sir John Wilder's country house.
What for?
When the joint managing director wishes to see his personal assistant, he doesn't usually tell us fleet drivers why, sir.
For breakfast, the day, or the weekend. The clothes I'm carrying are travel stain, and as I've got on, I've just slept in.
Well, if that was your flat that I dropped you off at last month, we could pick some up on our way, sir.
I don't know what flat you dropped me at. Well, let's try.
If I could have your baggage checked, sir, I'll get loaded up and meet you outside in 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, after a bumpy night, sitting next to a obese and airsick Venezuelan who made rustling noises with her moustache. Not sure where I put my baggage check. Huh.
Her moustache, sir?
I think. I haven't had one since the Battle of Britain.
Shall I take your briefcase as well, sir? Thank you, sir.
Morning, Mr. Henderson.
Oh, good morning. Look, if you're here for me, Saunders got in before you.
I only drive Mr. Ken Bligh, sir.
But I thought he was in Africa until the 15th.
Well, that was the intention, sir. But there's a paragraph in that, opposite the dividend page, which makes it plain there's nothing left for us out there now.
Do you read this, sir? I mean, Furbisham.
My Bible, sir. Second time this year British Imperial Engineering's pipped us, and again in a foreign part.
This isn't a foreign part, it's a former colony.
No, sir, it was a protectorate.
Well, Commonwealth, then. Some bloody burden.
Good morning, Mr. Ken Bligh, sir.
Good morning, Furbisham. Well, it's very good of you to meet me, Don.
Ah, well, I had nothing to do for 10 minutes. And I always do my best to meet both my joint managing directors.
Well, barely 2 months ago, you were reminding me you were personal assistant only to John Wilder.
And only lately you've convinced me that you've accepted that.
Been golfing or sun lamping?
Hmm?
Where'd you get your tan?
Oh, Venezuela. Where did you get your pallor? I thought you'd been to Africa.
It rained. Huh. Anything in that about us? Missing out?
No. Only about British Imperial cashing in.
The airline's handling the baggage as usual.
Then I'll fetch the car, sir.
How much too high did we tender?
We didn't tender, Don. I tendered. John was against our going for it at all, but as joint managing director, agreed to differ. Caswell, as founder, disapproved, and as my father, deplored. So it was my tender, and it wasn't too high. You could ride to the office with me, but I shan't be going there. I cabled Jayston I'd be at Maidenhead for breakfast. And, should anybody ask, for the weekend, incommunicado. You walk me down?
Stomach rumbling. I'll breakfast here.
Oh, thanks for coming out, particularly at this hour. I just welcome you back sometime.
Well, you may be sure I don't feel I put myself to any trouble, Ken.
I wouldn't swear to this, Mrs. Bligh, not if it's left to stand long.
Think you'll find you can trust it up to an hour. Start the bacon as soon as Mr. Bligh arrives.
I did the bacon. I did everything.
Where? Oh, no, Enid. Oh, for Mr. Bligh, you dip lean slices into boiling lard for 20 seconds, and then serve straight from the flame, not from this. 4 slices, large but thin.
I thought you said Mr. Bligh liked it pressed down on a stickless pan. I took a note.
Well, Mr. Ken Bligh does, but not Mr. Bligh. My husband, but not his father.
I see. I'm sorry.
Why should you be? I neglected to tell you. I asked the newsagent to send the Guardian. Has it come?
I don't know. I just brought in the bundle.
Yes. Send it for Mr. Bligh, would you? Oh, no, Enid, not there. Where the roses. Hello.
Hello, Jayston.
Tired?
And hungry.
Try the new girl's cooking. It's ready.
You got one. That was fast. Any good?
Name's Enid. Carry your bag, sir. Don't look fit to manage the climb. Don't you want to eat?
When you cross the landing, I'm knee-spotting.
You should go to China more often.
I didn't go to China. I went to Africa.
I know that. China's further. This is how you come back from Africa. Just think how you'd come back from China.
What time do you expect Father?
No. No need to brace yourself. He was coming anyway before he got the cable.
He rang you about my cable, then?
Yes. We're going to see Helen. It's games day. Both the children, by the way, are quite healthy.
Well, as it's games day, that, by the way, is just as well. For Helen, anyway. Well, it's thoughtful of Father. I wasn't looking forward to telling you the details. Now I take it I needn't.
So you didn't stand any chance, so nobody's going to blame you.
No, but like most fathers, he's seldom disappointed when his son gets a bloody nose for doing what he's been told not to.
Ian makes excellent poached haddock. You try some.
Well, shouldn't I wait and keep him company?
No, I can do that.
Leave it to the new girl. And it's not him. I didn't hear his car.
Well, nobody can ever hears your father's kind of car.
It's all right, Mrs. Bligh answered it. You can start dipping bacon in lard. And tea.
Tea?
In the homely brown pot.
You look what you've been. Up all night. What made you take a night flight?
An inclination to get away from the scene of disaster instantly.
British Imperial probably thought you were economizing. After flopping like that, I'd have come by day in the champagne suite.
My impression was you'd never have gone.
Well, I'm not going to say I told you so.
My next impression is that you just have.
This is from the Felicity graph. Aren't you bringing it on quick?
Am I? I thought it was the other evergreen you gave me.
No, it's the Felicity Perpetue. And whatever your gardener is doing to it, you must tell me. Oh, smell again.
It'll provoke my asthma.
You haven't got asthma. You've got disappointed businessman snuffle. Someone always has to lose Ken, but nobody has to grieve about it. Remember that, and you'll breathe more easily.
I shall try, Father. You must make allowances. I haven't had your experience of losing.
Oh, we each have our own of that. I haven't been to Africa. Well, are you coming with us to see Helen?
No, I'm going to sleep.
Good. Then I shan't feel I'm whisking Justine away from him the moment you come home.
Did you have the impression I was asleep when you rang her about my cable?
Enid is very good with fish cats. You try some.
Thank you. When your mother was alive, Ken, I told her everything I did in business, politics, or anything. Always.
That would explain her early death.
Enid, I'm afraid you're a little bit early with the bacon. Would you mind doing some more?
No, that's all right. I'll just have the bacon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, would you like this?
No, thank you. On that plate, I was waiting for bacon.
Is that the Guardian you've got there? No, I've read it. There's something for you on page 5. While you were in Africa, John Wilder landed the motorway contract here. With a little help from me.
Oh, I'm surprised nobody cabled me. Quite a triumph.
And why don't you sit down and Eat your breakfast and be glad about it instead of standing there like a spoiled child who's been clumsy enough to drop his ice cream at the party.
Well, why should I look pleased about a contract we've got? I should be out of step with you. Am I wrong? I thought the sort of contract that pleased you most was the sort I didn't get.
The tea.
So we see Enid. The moment I saw you, I thought, there's Enid with the tea. Done just how father likes it in the homely brown pot. Put it next to him, please.
The, ice cream I mentioned. You don't feel you dropped it. You think someone knocked it out of your hand.
My tender wasn't too high. I've seldom heard of tenders being refused for being too low.
I know of one that should have been refused, the Ashani Dam. Your tender was so low there that the World Bank had to bail you out.
Experience for me to remember and others to forget.
Not if John Wilder went about reminding the right people at the wrong time.
I know John Wilder didn't want the African contract. I know he preferred the motorway. And I know we were having a sort of race. But what I don't know is that he went about reminding people about Ashani.
Well, you should now. Unless you're calling me a liar.
Oh, to believe you, I should have to forget this. That John Wilder, despite his misgivings, supplied me with information that enabled me to tender, knowing I was tendering the lowest.
Speak plainly, Ken. His mistress at the National Export Board showed him tendering figures supplied by our competitors to the Civil Engineering Committee, despite the fact that as a civil servant she knew she was contravening the official secrecy.
Oh, however John got them, he passed the figures on to me, is all I care.
John Wilder, Ken, took tea on the terrace of the House of Commons with Alan Lacey MP. Now, Lacey's the PPS to the minister, who I believe subsequently and consequently advised the minister of the new government that Bligh Construction abroad lacked experience, had the Ashani blot on its record. On the whole, it was a bad risk, apt to tender too low. So, after your latest fiasco, I'm coming back to the office more often. I'm going to reassume more control.
Is that why you did this?
What?
To build up something that my fellow directors would regard as proof of my inexperience, so that you could get their support against me in what you call your reassumption.
Is that why I did what, Ken? Are you saying that Wilder didn't knife you and that I did?
What you said about Wilder, you could have said of yourself, but even more so. You're motorway mad. And not just for business reasons, for personal, political reasons. You didn't want the dam. Not if it was in Africa. Not if it was anywhere except where the British voter could see your name stuck up on every bit of engineering equipment we own. And you also saw Lacey. But not on the tea terrace. You had him to a house party. The only point where your conduct differs from Wilder's is that you gave me no help about the tender, and he gave me all he could.
But that help was invalidated by what he said to Lacey. Can't you grasp it? The lower you tendered, the less hope you had.
How do you know what he said to Lacey? What did you say to Lacey? Did you ask him if John had reminded him about Ashani? Is that how you slipped it in?
No. I didn't like siding with Wilder against you about the dam, Ken. But I like it even less to see you siding with him in his attempt to set us as a family against each other.
So do I, Ken.
And I like it even less. You're coming here to take my wife, to see my children the morning I get back from Africa.
Silly, Ken.
That's the bloody truth.
Well, what should I have done? Given you a month to settle in? Well, this morning you said you wanted to go to bed. Good God, how
You could have come to meet me at the airport. You could have kept a business wrangle out of this house. Even Wilder thought of that. At least he had his Henderson along to see if there was anything I wanted to get off my chest.
Henderson met you?
Yes, at the airport.
Did he look brown?
What?
Did he have a suntan? He should have had. You know, the day after you went to Africa, Henderson stopped coming into the office, and when I asked Wilder about it, he simply said that as his personal assistant, he was away for a week on personal business. However, Henderson also gave his secretary the week off, I think, so that she couldn't be asked any questions. So his mail came to my Miss Tillingshead. Among it was a late delivery from a firm specializing in tropical clothes. I should say, Ken, that you met Henderson at the airport just as much as he met you, equally on a return, equally inadvertently. I should say it's remarkable that Henderson didn't tell you so. And if I were you now, I'd ask myself not only where he'd been, but where he'd been for Wilder behind your back, and what knife he was sharpening for it.
This time.
Hello, Pamela.
There was a bird building a nest. Do birds nest in winter? I always thought they migrated.
Well, not all of them. I don't know. The migratory ones, yes. How's John?
No idea whatsoever. Oh. Oh, you frightened it away. Might have been of ornithological interest. I know nothing about birds, but I do know the ology they belong to. You know, the next time you traipse about this neck of the woods, I'd be commoded if you do so in a quieter car, or drive this one less boyishly. Tiddles, this is Mr. Donald Henderson.
John sent me a fleet car that might have suited, but I shoot it off.
Aren't you shivery stuck out in the open in this car?
That's the point. To wake me up. First time I've seen you walking a dog.
Oh, exile out here, I know many unusual things. For instance, this morning I've encountered you, out for a blow without your master.
Well, I could say the same of you.
We're talking of unusual phenomena.
Well, jump in. Let's join him.
Jumping? With this?
Well, time to the back. I won't do more than 40.
No. If you saw another dog, we'd land up in the woods.
Yeah. Well, sitting beside me and you sit on the back with your boots on the seat. You're looking insouciant. It's only half a mile.
You were not merely passing by. You were bound for a premeditated drop-in.
Didn't John say I was coming?
I have no memory of his doing so. Of course, if I had, it would have to stretch to yesterday week. What he said then, I'm not quite sure of, because the telephone had indigestion. But since he didn't come down for that weekend, I have gathered it was that he wouldn't.
Well, he'll come for this weekend.
You're muddled. You seem there.
Well, he's not here.
Well, why the wondering tone? Wonder when he is.
Well, he will be, Pamela. He sent for me.
I'll drive. You sit insouciantly.
Come on, Tiddles.
There's a good boy. I think you fluttered to the wrong nest. John's migratory. Not regular in the seasonal sense, nor consistent in destination, but frequent and versatile. Always ready to go, no matter where it is. This early morning, I should think he's preening his feathers, or having them preened, at Notting Hill Gate, his spring quarters.
Don't get a fixation about that, Pam. It's winter.
Spring there.
Susan, could you put the Daily Globe on your list?
Well, Townley gets it. I read it at the office. I'll go out and get you one if you weren't leaving so soon.
I could go out and get one for myself if I weren't leaving so soon.
lie to her?
To whom?
Pamela.
I don't think so. There's no salt.
Oh, I've forgotten. When you go up on a Saturday morning, I mean.
No, I don't know what you mean.
Well, when you go up for a weekend that you could have begun like anybody else on a Friday evening.
Which of those do I get if I give the right answer? The salt or the pepper?
I don't think there is a right answer. Either you lie to her and are paltry, or you hit her with the truth and you're cruel.
Surprising that you put up with me.
That's not the controversy. Why does she?
Well, she's my wife.
Yes. Have the tomato sauce.
I never use it.
Pity. You just gave the right answer for that prize.
All right, then, I'll stay with you. I'll stay, but I will not discuss Pamela.
You can't stay with me.
I can. I can ring Henderson and have him meet me in the city for lunch instead. You could spare me.
I should never dare to shackle you, John, and you know it. And I sometimes fear it's what you know Pamela knows, too.
I'm seriously offering to stay for the whole weekend with you.
And you are even more seriously waiting for me to remember that you can't, not with me. Because I have to work on the confidential files that you spent half the night reading, and because at some unspecified time Townley is calling to take me to the country house with the chairman of the board, because the chairman would like to look at those files too. And if he has any major comments to draft, I'm to stay over through Sunday to help him.
You didn't say anything last night about going to Lord Scaife.
I should have, had you asked. But you didn't have to ask. I heard Townley mention it to you on Wednesday.
Those files, as far as I were concerned, were not confidential. I'm on the committee they deal with, and I, too, have to check the summaries you're making.
Which is why Townley told you how diligently we were hurrying up those summaries. You lie in silence, John. When will you marry me so I can stand it?
I cannot divorce Pamela because I have no grounds. She won't divorce me, although she has grounds. That she has and won't makes it all the more impossible.
Have you ever looked for grounds?
It would be a waste of time.
Silence.
I'm damn sure I wouldn't stay up now even if I could.
Oh, yes, you would. If the files I had concerned the Civil Engineering Committee.
Does that make you think worse of me?
No. I feel it should of me for letting you see them as I have at other times.
But it doesn't.
I don't know. It should, and that's far enough.
Next Wednesday's session of the Civil Engineering Committee, the committee that I'm most interested in, but I'm not on, and whose evidence I should not see. You'll be there.
As secretary to it, yes.
And according to the agenda, which you shouldn't have left lying around for me to look at, British Imperial Engineering and 2 other firms in the same field are appearing as well as Bly's.
Yes.
But not together. Because they're under some constraint to divulge business secrets to the export board, they are under none to divulge them to each other.
And you'd like me to work on those files here the same evening?
After you've cooked me dinner. When you finish your typescript, I'll help you to check them against your drafts.
How important is this to you, John?
Important as you are.
Leaving me aside.
Don't compound a felony. You're committing one by letting me see the papers. You'll be committing a worse one if you knew why I wanted to.
Susan Weldon? Oh, hello. All right. Yes, I suppose it will. No, I've been up an hour. Well, I haven't your zest for working all my weekend. Goodbye. Colin Townley is picking me up at 4 o'clock. So that makes it pretty certain I'll be staying the night at Scaife's.
And it makes it certain that we can have lunch together. Now I can depend on you for next Wednesday. I can get Henderson working straight away for next Friday. My egg is cold. It's up to you whether you leave the kitchen door open or not while you cook me another. If I were you, I'd close it. Hello, I'd like to speak to Mr. Henderson, please. No, I have not got the wrong number, Millie. This is Sir John. All right, Agnes, then. Mr. Henderson should be there waiting for me.
And who went even more Chinese? Well, this room.
Oh, I did.
Does John like it?
I haven't seen it yet. It's only been done for 2 months. Yes, Agnes?
Sir John is on the telephone, Lady Wilder.
He wishes to apologize, but has been detained in the city indefinitely.
He was asking for you, sir, I think.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson, Agnes.
Hello, John.
In a word, was I right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The whole country's opening up now they've gone to minerals. They've allocated a
Stick to yes and no. Ken Bligh took a beating in Africa. Did you know that?
Yes, it was written all over him.
What?
No, I saw him at the airport. Oh, don't worry. He thought I was there to meet him, so I let him.
Well, disabuse him. This morning, according to his secretary, he's gone straight home. You go there, too. Show him your field report.
But, I thought you didn't want he or his father to know where I'd gone. I thought you wanted to pop it on them.
Yes, at the right time. And that's now. I needn't tell you where you can ring me during the week, but I don't want anybody else to know. I'm vanishing.
What? Well, just when I've materialized?
Tell Ken Bligh that I've called a board meeting, an emergency one, for next Friday. I now can't be there, so I'd like him to consider whether he'll take it alone or cancel it in view of your Venezuela report. You understand? If he wishes to sponsor action, he should do so by himself without waiting for me.
Oh, what shall I say to his father?
Nothing. It's what Ken Bligh says to his father that I'm depending upon. Make this absolutely clear. I can give Ken tendering figures below anybody else's, provided that our fellow directors, including Caswell, agree that we should put all we can into Venezuela. Make that cast iron plain.
But what about the motorway contract here? The one you've landed?
I've never given a damn about the motorway. The only value in that contract is that it's given Caswell a chance to rub salt into his son's wounds. And the more Caswell rubs, the more the boy will hate. He won't blame me for Africa. He'll blame Caswell because Caswell is on top. And when Caswell is on top, he'd be hateful to a ministering angel. Your job now is to put the boy on top. I want him to get his own back. And I want him to tear out his father's guts to get it.
And when he's done Caswell once and for all, you'll do him.
Go and see him. And ring me here this afternoon before 3:30. Oh, and Don, you'll find some tropical clothes in your office. Don't worry, they're on expenses. I ordered them.
And it's a bit late. I'm back in the wet.
They arrived dead on time to make Caswell wonder what we're doing. By next Friday, he'll be wondering whether his son knew all along. That will make him want to tear the boy's guts out. I don't much care which gets in first, so long as only one man is left standing, with blood all over him.
I'll leave you my key, shall I? Well, in case you want to go out to eat. I shan't be here, shall I? And you've lost yours.
No. Oh, yes, thank you. It's about time I had another one cut.
Is she used to it?
What?
Well, do you often phone home without speaking to her? I'll do you another egg. How would you like it this time? Hard-boiled? Sorry. Where's Enid?
Making coffee, urgently.
Didn't get you up then?
No, someone else. No key?
No, I haven't.
Well, how'd you manage the bell?
Over.
Goodies for Helen. Or as you'd say, tuck.
For the year.
What? Oh, she can give away what she can't gorge.
Well, that'll make her feel regal. Might she enjoy visiting the poor next?
Well, in future, I'll ask your permission.
Now, we've certainly not another 10 rounds. We leave early. Be ready in 5 minutes.
I'd be glad if you could stay for half an hour.
I am bewildered.
Henderson's here.
In there?
Mm-hmm. Justine, I'll discuss business with Father in front of you, but not in front of you with an employee present.
Well, Henderson, I always thought, was strictly personal assistant to Wilder, not to you.
Well, seems to have been a change. Voluntary one.
1,000 people are moving to that area every month. There are known reserves of 4,000 million tons of high-grade iron ore, 370,000 million barrels of petroleum, 320,000 cubic meters of natural gas.
For our known reserves are 2 rashers of bacon and the last egg. What do you want for lunch, and what shall I get in case you want to rough it tonight?
Oh, anything. Am I boring you?
I'm an economist. I know it all. The 3rd largest dam in the world after Krasnoyarsk in Russia and S1 in Egypt is going to be the Guri in Venezuela. Target date 1968. Planned capacity 10,000 megawatts.
But that's the Caroni River. There's also the Orinoco. And that's where we can get more than a foot in, a whole leg, on 1,000 million pounds set aside for expenditure up to 1976 alone.
Well, we are very heavily committed here, Don. Is the motorway?
Oh, we've no start date. We won't be one before next year, if then. While the Venezuelans are spending, our government's cutting back. 18 millions withheld from classified road schemes, 25 millions from motorways and trunks. Makes 43 millions.
All right, I'll look over your report, Henderson. Early next week.
Well, that's cutting it a bit fine if we're going in. I mean, the tendering date...
Yes, you said so. Thank you.
Wherever John's gone to, and that's not very hard to guess, is he likely to be in touch with you?
It's his habit.
Assure him that next Friday, if I'm still joint managing director in fact as well as reputation, I will get this through.
One moment, Henderson. This isn't a matter for shock decisions. I shouldn't say anything to Wilder until I've had a look at this report and given my advice to Kenneth.
Oh, if John rings me, I'll tell him what both of you have said.
Walter Raleigh went looking for gold in Venezuela, too. A place called El Dorado. He never found it.
It's been found now.
Not for us, just as it wasn't in Africa.
Well, this isn't a British protectorate. No Old Boys Act has to be allowed for.
They've heard of Ashani in Venezuela. The whole world has, particularly the World Bank.
They've also heard that I'm no longer blundering around on your advice. I have Sir John Wilder's now.
Yes, the advice of a man who only came into the industry 2 months ago.
Hasn't put a foot wrong.
Oh, he's put this foot wrong. He's got himself a mistress, and he's put himself into her hands. And if she's ever found out, he'll be ruined in the inquiry.
Oh, I think Susan Weldon's ingrained discretion as a civil servant would prevent her disclosing anything about John if you got her lugged in front of security.
It hasn't stopped her being indiscreet with John, has it?
As I intend to act in full concert with my joint managing director, remember I'm your son before landing me in an investigation with him, won't you? People would wonder about you. People who'd like to do this sort of thing every day, as you would.
I don't need to read this. Next Friday, if you put it to your fellow directors, remember that they were mostly appointed by me before I was stupid enough to step down for you. And if I have to make them stop you, I will. And if they have to do that, they'll go on to consider whether they'll bounce you altogether as an impressionable amateur subject to the domination of a mountebank.
If on Friday, Father, I recommend a tender that in the event turns out to be lower than that accepted in Venezuela from any other British firm, no matter how far you've got them to fling me, they'll fling you further in the end.
If.
Thank you.
Henderson?
Yes. The boy's in favor. The father's against. The bloodbath is next Friday. No return clause.
And you're still on neither side, merely against both.
All I have to think about is the tender figure. If Ken Bligh wins, that has got to be right. If Caswell wins, it has got to be even more right in the long run. Either way, I get rid of one of them. What have you got?
Lamb chops. And a request.
Granted.
A request that you look for grounds, find them, divorce Pamela, and then marry me.
Just as I'd nearly accomplished the possible. I don't like to see you bashing your head against something which for the moment is impossible.
Well, you make things possible, John, as you made them this morning. And I'm not a felon. If I show you secret documents next Wednesday, as a civil servant, I have no excuse. I have one only if we are sharing a relationship in which secrets should not exist, as they should not exist between man and wife.
Poppy bloody nonsense. That wouldn't make it legal either.
It'd make it acceptable to me.
It's as illogical as...
Pamela wanting to hang on to you. For what the inducement is there, I don't know. But having lived with you myself, I know it can't be logical. But I can understand that. Well, I'd like some, too. As a civil servant, John, I find your attentions dishonorable. As your wife, I think otherwise.
I have got to have those figures by Wednesday evening. I have got to calculate a tender in 1 day flat, which usually takes 2 months. And I have to pitch it below my competitors.
You have got to start looking for grounds, John. And you have got to have your solicitor's report sent here for me to read first. And you have got to show them to me before next Wednesday with actionable grounds in them.
I could consult a solicitor, Susan. But what I can't do is to induce Pamela to perform actionably in 4 days when I haven't been able to do in 10 years. And for that, you'd let me risk a business. A botch-up. All right, then. Do you have to throw me out as well?
No, we can continue in adultery until either of us finds it juvenile. But if we do continue, while I'm still at the export board, people will still think I'm showing you documents. So I shan't stay at the board. I shall go back to my old department in which you have no commercial interest. There is a vacancy. I'm right, then. I'm only of interest to you while I'm on the export board.
Shall we say that you've made me understand that any further attentions from me would inevitably compromise you, whatever you were on? Goodbye. Hello, you're early.
Her line was excessively engaged.
Yes, I was on it. Did you call to see if that was so for yourself?
I called because I'm expected.
At 4 o'clock. It's now only 11.
And because Lord Scaife, as he so often does, now feels too ill to receive us today. My wife's delighted I can now take her. But why should I count for my domestic affairs to you? The fact is, I'm on my way and dropping in briefly because I'm rushed.
And not investigating my domestic affairs.
While it's gossiped that you're having them with someone in my department, one might say that I have a duty to.
And you carry out such duties, no matter how distasteful they might be to you.
Tastefully? I almost did last week. I would have had you been in when I rang Bligh's. But it's too late now.
Too late for what?
For me to ask you to use your influence over her so that she might accept a transfer back to her old department. For her own good and for yours in the long run. There was a vacancy, but she not only refused to go back, she wrote a sarcastic little report back to the department saying that she shouldn't, because she was in personal touch with someone whose interests might compromise her. Damn dangerous sense of irony. However, they'd never have her back now.
But you wouldn't turn her out yourself.
Well, not unless you're careless enough to make me, Sir John.
Oh, Colin. Since you're in such a rush, I could give her your message.
Susan Weldon. Good morning.
Look, is John there? Now, don't blow up and don't cover up. I'm not snooping. I'm just bursting. What?
I was speaking to my door. There's someone knocking at it. Hold on.
You're a liar.
Ken Bly's on the telephone, just bursting for you. Shall I go on lying?
No, I'll speak. Yes, Ken?
He won't approve, but he won't oppose. Cracked him.
Good. How?
Well, to be honest, he cracked himself. This totally unfounded idea he has that a certain young woman shows you anything you want to see. Absurd notion, don't bother to deny. But for God's sake, never do anything to stop the old rogue from taking it for granted. Hello? John?
Thank you for calling, and for your most welcome and acceptable advice. Goodbye.
You were calling me a liar. Do you?
I do not come here to seduce you into misbehaving as a civil servant, but only as a woman.
That's erratic of you, but provisionally considered. Providing you can explain your accusation and not prove it.
I merely meant that you're a liar. If you say that I'm only interested in you while you're on the export board. To prove it, you have my solemn and unconditional blessing, my complete approval to return to your former apartment. It won't make any difference at all to my feelings towards you.
I'm astonished and suspicious. Why this somersault?
No somersault. Draft a letter to your former department. I'll help you to get it right if you like. I'll even post it for you.
I can draft and post my own letters, thank you. But I appreciate the offer with amazement.
I am only interested in you as a woman, you see.
No, I don't see. But I shall try.
Good. So shall I.